It's just a prank, bro. This quote has been memed into oblivion in the last 5, maybe 10 years or so, and for very good reason. Hey everyone, my name's Tristan Verstappen, and I have a lot to say about many things. I want to talk about pranking, prank channels, as well as the concept of just pranking as a whole. Now, I will be fully upfront and say that personally, I don't like pranking. I don't like pranks. I don't think they're fun. In fact, it actually has been shown that people that derive pleasure from other people's misfortune, which is known as Schadenfreude, is actually a sign of emotional immaturity. If you're the kind of person, generally, that gets a real kind of sense of pleasure over someone being in a situation that they didn't want to be in, even if you think that's something as innocuous as, what's a classic prank example? Someone getting gum stuck in their hair, slipping on a banana peel, opening a door to a bucket of water falling on them. These are some classic examples I can think of. And even some of these can be argued that, oh, it's just all in good fun, it's perfectly fine, whatever. Again, not in agreement with that personally, but you do you. What I want to talk about more specifically is prank channels and the kind of shock value that they very much rely on. Now, a lot of things I'm going to discuss here are also very prevalent in things like reality TV and things of that nature, where the whole enjoyment that the audience, such as yourself, get from the experience is seeing someone else go through some not horrifically tragic incident, but a pretty inconvenient one that they'd, again, rather not be in. Some of these can be relatively innocuous, such as things like Ring and Run, or as it's also known, Ding Dong Ditch, prank calls, things of this nature. However, again, personally, I would say that I don't even like pranks when they're done in this kind of way. I mean, it's annoying, no matter who you are, to be getting a ring in your doorbell or a knock on your door, whatever it is that you're not expecting. You go to check it out, and then there's these idiot kids running down the hall, or street, or whatever it might be. I say hall because I live in an apartment, and yes, I've dealt with this personally. I've never dealt with prank calls, mainly because, well, when I get a call that I don't know, I just don't answer it. But again, this is all me personally. What about when it comes to people who do things like, and I'm not kidding here, prank call 911, or prank call the suicide hotline, or anything else where it's actually important for them to be able to take real phone calls? What about when things like that happen? Or what about when people just harass employees of different establishments for views on social media? A couple years ago, there was this big thing where people would order like a milkshake or something from McDonald's or wherever it may be, and they would just throw the milkshake into the drive-thru window. Really, really just messed up, uncalled for behavior, and it's just not cool. Or another one was even where, a couple years even before that, people were taking, I believe it was Bluebell ice cream, and just licking it for no reason. And then they were like, closing the lid again and putting it back in the freezer. Like, that's just disgusting. You're going to spread diseases. It's just not cool. Now, you might think that listening to how I view pranks and all this, that I'm too uptight, too straight edge, whatever the case. I just don't like it. For me, for one, other people's misfortune has never really caused me any kind of enjoyment. I just feel sorry for them. When something bad happens, I want to, like, reach out and help them in some way if I can, and if I can't, I just kind of cringe and look away. Now, I'm sure we've all, of course, seen the, car crash that we just can't look away from, but that's not where we're necessarily, enjoying what we're seeing. We're kind of looking at it because it's a car crash we can't look away from. It's just like, oh, damn, that's, I hope they're all right. That kind of situation. But a lot of people, especially those that kind of seek out prank channels and stuff like that, are very specifically trying to get a rise out of people. The people that perform the pranks are really trying to get a rise out of people. I haven't kept up too much with this, but some other examples with this, a big one again a couple years ago, was because a couple years ago, by the way, was where this stuff really took off, but I wasn't making content a couple years ago, so I didn't get a chance to talk about it. Here I am now. Anyway, a couple years ago, another big one was people running around and like cutting the wires off of people's like earbuds. They'd be sitting at like a bus stop or something, and this asshole would come along and just snip the cord. Now, there was a benevolent version of this that people started doing where they would do that. The person would get rightfully pissed off, and then the other person would be like, hey, don't worry, I got you a new pair. So, like, okay, that's something. It's still not great that you did that to them in the first place. But this is where we get to the quote that I opened on. It's just a prank, bro, became memed into oblivion simply because a common thing these idiots would do is they'd mess with the wrong person, and I'm sure at a certain point it was staged, but they'd mess with the wrong person, and that person would, again, rightfully get mad at them and start chasing after them. Whether it be someone trying to pick up someone else's partner, snipping the headphone cords, as mentioned earlier, or another big one for a while, and I was actually still in high school at this point, was people would, like, deck people in the face with milk. They would, like, walk up to them and just, like... Well, and then there was another one where people would just walk around and they would just deck people, like, for no reason. Like, they didn't even have... There wasn't anything to it. These trends occur and get popularized more and more, especially due to social media. And a lot of people do this stuff just for the views, or, as was back in the day, do it for the Vine. But whether you're doing it for the Vine, because you were dared to, or whatever the case, I just don't think that messing with people is a good thing to do. Another one, and this was more recent, but, it started occurring where people would do this thing where, and you would see this kind of stuff all over, like TikTok and Reddit and all these different things where someone would be like messaging someone, and normally it would be like a girl who friend zoned a guy. She'd like text a guy and be like, hey, I want to let you know I've actually always really liked you, or I have feelings for you. And the guy would be like, wait, really? And then she would be like, oh, sorry, I was just doing that for either a prank or a TikTok video, some shit like that. And again, when you're messing with people in these kind of ways, I just don't like it. I'm not saying that if you watch these kind of things and you derive any kind of enjoyment from them that it means anything less of you, but I am saying the people that produce this content should probably find better ways to do it, but that's part of the problem, right? You have to kind of constantly be upping the shock value, upping the, what crazy situation are they in? What are they doing? All these different kind of things. So at the end of the day, I guess this is really just a rant on me not liking pranks in general and really disliking people that kind of, go out of their way to like cause some misery to somebody else, either for their own enjoyment or somebody else's. It just isn't right. It's not a cool thing to do. It's not kind. It doesn't make you a good person. It doesn't make you anything other than an asshole. So if this is something that you do, I'd recommend taking a hard look at yourself, figuring out why, and cutting that shit out and growing up. If this is something you've been subjected to in some way, I'm sorry. I know that these pranks can get pretty bad, and it's just, there's a limit, and I think when it comes to pranks in general, a good rule of thumb to follow is simply that if whatever you're causing is so much of an inconvenience that they're really going to have to take time out of their day to adjust whatever it is, don't do it. And if you're doing something like messing up somebody's hair or cologne or something right before they're about to go on a date or something like that, don't do those kind of things either. There are fun ways to kind of mess with people and ways that are like perfectly, fine. But, I mean, generally speaking, just don't mess with other people. The best rule of thumb to follow is simply that, if you wouldn't want it done to yourself, don't do it to somebody else. But, that's a broad thing to follow in general. That's, as they call it, the golden rule. Anyway, I realize at this point that I'm just ranting, but I really don't like kind of the concept of pranks and prank channels and people doing things for clout and all that kind of stuff, especially when it causes some kind of misfortune of somebody else. So I just wanted to kind of get that off my chest. I guess this is more of a rant than it was a proper discussion, but as always, I am, of course, opening the discussion to people like you down in the comments below. So please, as always, these are just my thoughts. Let me know what yours are in the comments down below. Follow me on social media for more. Subscribe and ring the bell to stay up to date. Leave a like if you like, and if not, I hope you find something to do like. Later, guys. Peace and love.